The best way to describe today's video is probably let's make this as chaotic as possible. It's been a while since I've actually given you a wrap up of my favorite books. I think the last time was in May about April books, so I am obviously months behind. And I thought I would highlight my favorite books of those missing months by basically hurting my own feelings. Let's see some 1-star reviews. And if you're new here, hi, welcome. I'm XO Joe, your fellow bookish lover. And before we get into all these shenanigans, I just want to shout out our sponsor for today, which is NailReserve. I have finally found like an actual nail company that is amazing when I'm traveling because they have the cutest freaking UV light. Like, look at this. This is so portable, it plugs in, and it works so freaking well, freakishly well. Unlike other gel brands, this is vegan friendly and it strengthens your nails, and that is something that I had been struggling. I have not worn nail polish in a long time because it was really jacking up my nails, and after having like a few uses of their gel products, my nails are so much stronger. I am like so happy with it, and again, this is so portable, super cute. I'm definitely taking it with me in my next few trips so I can actually redo my nails. The best part is this is an actual really affordable brand. Our friends at NailReserve also decided to give you, my special book babes, 50% off. So seriously, it is insanely affordable. You can use the code XOJOE. I always make sure to try products before like talking about them on here, so they let me like do a bunch of tests. Thank you so much to NailReserve for this. Make sure you check out the link down below. Use the code XOJOE for 50% off. We love it. Let's continue. Let's start with If Something Happens to Me. This was a super fun read. Writing, painful, plot, please stop, ending, hallelujah. My opinion, boo. I know I'm a few short of a dozen. Yeah, you are. Finley must think his readers are drooling imbeciles the way he over-explained everything. Mr. Finley, I did not feel this way. I did not feel like I was being talked down to while reading this book. I just thought it was super interesting that we had multi-point of views and one of them was also like a mobster. Like, how does this tie in together? And the more you read, the more the plot unravels. Finley used each character, no matter their age, sex, or race, as a mouthpiece for his opinions on topics that were relevant to the story. Interesting. Y'all know I'm like open to criticism. Like, I really enjoyed these books, but I love knowing why people didn't. Like, I love discussion as long as it's like respectful and nice. I'm not gonna yuck someone's yum unless it's straight up racist, then I will yuck your yum. Dina, Diana, and Divya have evidently been awake for hours, Instagram ready with their contour makeup that looks like they applied it while watching a tutorial from Kardashian. I will tell you this, when I was reading this book, I did notice the she's not like other girls trope in there that like a lot of male authors fall into. The point of this book is that this man ran into basically his girlfriend's kidnapper and killer. He was young when his girlfriend was snatched and he saw it happen and no one believed him and everyone thought he did something to her. Talk about traumatizing. Finley really did that. This tops my worst books read this year. The characters were insufferable and laughable. My apologies to those who enjoyed this book. Thank you. It wasn't the worst book I've ever read, but it's certainly in the top 5. I was pretty excited when I saw If Something Happens to Me on NetGalley, blah, blah, blah. Fast-paced thriller. Like, is this a 1-star or is this a 5-star? Fast-paced, multi-point of view, mobster, gangster, trauma. Fortunately, my excitement was short-lived. Way too many characters, at least so many of them are interchangeable. My girl Poppy is not interchangeable in this book. There was so much extra information, like the author was trying to hit a word count. This sucks. I don't know. I ended up giving this book 4 stars because it was fast-paced. It was really interesting. I had no idea how the stories would tie together. I had so much fun reading it and it was so entertaining, and I feel like that's the job of a thriller. Like, it wants to pull you in. That was one of my top reads of May. The City of Stardust. The City of Stardust is major Night Circus vibes. Major. Come to find out, as I'm reading this arc, like there's obviously not a lot of information out there quite yet. But I did see the author Summers, and it's her debut novel, did an interview and she says, my favorite book of all time is The Night Circus. I love the way that she writes. If I could ever capture that atmospheric writing in my book, like it would be a dream. Miss Summers, you did that. You really are the girl that did that. The Night Circus is such a unique read. It's all vibes. There's no plot. That book took me so long to read, only like 300 and something pages. It's nothing like majorly huge, but it was just so dense, if that makes sense. I rated it so high because what the author accomplished in The Night Circus I think is so impressive and it's so difficult, and I think there's a reason. The author doesn't just like publish books like crazy because they're not like easy reads. And Miss Georgia Summers really nailed it. When I started reading The City of Stardust, I was like, this gives me major Night Circus vibes, and like I love it. But I loved it more because it had more of a plot, and then it did start to like thin out a little on the plot, and it was just like more vibes again. That being said, I don't think the Night Circus is for everyone, just like I don't think The City of Stardust is for everyone. This is one of those books that the blurb sounded so good. If only the writing had been as good. Get out of here. Literally the opposite of what I just said. Even though the genres are listed as sci-fi fantasy, it reads more as if it was intended for YA instead of adults. This is not YA. Maybe that changes my perspective a little bit. I still think it is like a dense read. It does feel like atmospheric, adult, and soft. I don't think adult fantasy novels have to be like violent and extremely smutty for them to be adult novels. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. I never know if I make sense. I did not like the book. I was confused by the flowery language. See, previous reader, you can't tell me the writing is bad. There's nothing that happens, and I wouldn't say it's like purple prose like the Hurricane Wars. Whew, that was a difficult read for me. Come on, it wasn't so bad. I will say there's so much confusion because the MC doesn't know either, like doesn't know what's happening, so obviously we don't. It did take way too long to unravel. Vibes, just vibes. I had an interesting time reading it. I also read it during winter, so I think I was also reading it at the perfect time. This was the epitome of overwriting, under-delivering. The prose consistently felt like it was trying so hard to be lyrical, but really it just ended up being vague. That's a pretty solid sentence right there, but I would disagree. The writing tone felt mildly pretentious throughout, but like yes, because some of the villains in this, or like the main villain, is so pretentious. She is so pretentious that I feel like the author has to write pretentiously, and we spend so much time with the villains of the story who are just evil. There's nothing else to say about this book but vibes. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I will say that around 60%, like someone else mentioned, the plot did feel like it just kind of fell off. It is still so impressive to me. It is also her debut novel, and I feel like if she continues writing like this and adds even more plot into her books, like she'll have a very unique thing. Night Circus was cool and everything, and I think I gave it 4 stars because what the author accomplished I think is really difficult to do, and I would have given it higher if it had a plot that we were actually exploring. And this is where Summer steps in because her book actually started so strongly with plot. I think if you just want like an atmospheric vibey book, and if you really like the Night Circus, you're gonna like this one. Moving on. This is nuts. I feel like I'm nuts. And if you're enjoying the nuttiness and you're not yet subscribed, hit that sub button. We don't know what shenanigans and spiel we're doing next, but we're doing it together. Ooh, The Whisper Man. When I tell you I am in thriller era, I mean it. And it's been on my TBR ever since I discovered that Bookstagram was a thing. So ever since 2019. This is the first book that creeped me out, and I realized it did creep me out because I was going to a really early class at the time, and I also read this, how do I say, during winter, and it was May. I don't know why I felt like winter. I think those months were just like still so chilly. I did not feel creeped out while reading the book, but then I woke up the next day and I was like, oh my gosh, what if like someone's staring at me through the window? I just felt these creepy vibes. I got Jesus, it's fine, okay? And I just brushed it off and moved on. Oh, this is a little too real. The book does touch on predators. I think thrillers that touch more on truth and like paranormal make it creepier, you know? This book has no 1-star reviews. Lies. I find that so hard to believe. I had to exit out of the app and come back in. Just kidding. I started this wanting to be spooked, frightened, terrified. I prepared myself for the scare of a lifetime. Yet I found myself almost 3/4 through the book wondering when it will get interesting. This person really didn't like it, but I also felt like they didn't really give a lot of points. So the book is nothing special whatsoever. There were moments where it was creepy. I will say that I also paired this with the audiobook, and the audiobook narrator did a really great job. I'm so happy I'm getting more into narrators because they really do make a whole experience for you. And so he made it sound more creepy, but it definitely does get repetitive because it's a mystery too. It's a cold case, not cold case, like what's happening. Also very disturbing. You can see on there, like I haven't rated it yet because I was like, do I feel like this is 4 stars or like 5 stars, 4.5 stars? It's such a mix because it is a bit slower, but it's also so real. I recommend it, and out of these reviews, I can't see anything like super fun. I don't want to do this one. I don't want to do this one. I actually had this one like right up, propped up on there. It's called Ana Maria and the Fox, and this is like the first book that made me like kick my feet and squeal. Like the first first romance that made me do that. This is like a historical romance. I love it because it features Mexican MCs, but it still takes place in London. I totally thought it was gonna take place like in Mexico, but it's actually these sisters that have to flee from there because of the war going on. Their father hopes that they can kind of like charm society and convince some powerful people in society to, you know, advocate for the British government to step in. And I actually got a personalized edition of When I Met the Author at Tucson Festival of Books this year, and I love Liana, and this is the first book. And okay, we'll keep doing the 1-star because I will just keep gushing about this book. Someone said, IDK, what was worse, the Spanglish or the plot? I actually adore the Spanglish in here. I will fight this reviewer. I freaking love Spanglish, and I love that Liana uses Spanglish in this. Obviously the MCs are fluent in multiple languages and they speak English. They also speak Spanish and their thoughts are in Spanglish, you know, because that's their native language. So I don't know why this reader like expected no Spanish at all. What did you want, homegirl? Like, did you want just pure English and like they're from Mexico but they never speak their language? At that point you just sound like the society people in London, and I'm getting heated and I am gonna fight, okay? I am gonna fight. Okay, DNF. I thought it was boring. Face is boring. Writing was really not for me. Long, unrealistic dialogue explaining the historical situation felt very pedantic and slowed the pace down. I mean, the two main characters had no chemistry. I thought they had so much chemistry. I was like dying for this. It is a little insta love, but I feel like a lot of historical romances kind of are. They meet across a ballroom. It's like, how else? I feel like that's kind of what has to happen in society for them to like even begin to court you. Unfortunately, this just wasn't it. And I say it was it. I was attracted to reading this book because of the historical premise of the Mexican and French conflict paired with fight against slavery. That is true. The main love interest, Gideon, is fighting for slavery rights. Power couple, okay, they're like both trying to fight for what's right in anti-colonization and slavery, but I was disappointed at how far from peace with the character development and more in-depth historical context. Historical romance, I've heard this from a lot of other historical romance friends and a lot of romance friends. You just also want to have a good time, and I don't think it's on Liana to always make everything so deep and serious and dark. Like, we also deserve to see insta love and like getting moments and not be too serious. I just love seeing like there is a plot which kept me really engaged, but it wasn't heavy all the time. As a Latina, I don't always want to see like my character struggle, you know? And at the same time, it is so important to touch on very clear issues. So Liana, I think, did an incredible balance of like, let me have fun, let me give my character like love and giddiness and insta love and like whatever else I want to give her, and also give the reader some insight on some real life historical issues and conflicts. For a lot of people that don't know, hey, Mexico was almost taken over by the French and there was this big battle and stuff. This is like cool because you get an insight into that, and other historical romances just like wash away that entire history. Why wouldn't they? Like, it doesn't impact its white characters, but in this case it does impact them, and they still get like a romance story. So I love it. Honestly, 1 star is dramatic, but I'm going to roll with it. I truly do not like this book for genre bending. Prominently, this is historical romance, but the romance portion is so cringe. Then we have relationships between the sisters to make this more of a heartstrings literary / women's fiction. Ana Maria was thrown into a supremely annoying, distressing situations where Gideon was constantly just around the corner to save the day. That's actually so funny because that's something that I have criticized Lisa Kleypas of doing. I love the book, and then there's some crazy like plot that happens. It just becomes dramatic for absolutely no reason. Well, Liana did say she loves Kleypas, and Kleypas does this a lot, but at that point I just like loved the characters so much and I was having a fun time. She talked about like the subplot of the sisters, and that was actually my favorite. These characters do deserve to have other things going on, and you do find out about Anna and her family, and you have to, like, if they're running away from their homeland because it's being colonized and they're just trying to keep safe and save their country, I think you need to know what's going on in the family. I think the more this author writes, the better and better they will get, but they're getting better really fast. So the second book has been my favorite, actually. I really love the second book. I would say this is probably like a 4-star, 5-star in my heart. Forget the haters, okay? Read this book. At least we finished May. So when I come back and do part 2 of this video, you will see less like books probably. But the books I did read were also good, so who knows? Maybe that's counter. So this was fun. I also feel like I want to do a video that's the opposite, where I highlight my least favorite books of the month with high reviews and like fight over there too. Thanks so much for watching, you guys, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!